What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Today should be a pretty exciting one. I'll be reassembling the 2JZ engine and getting it ready to go back in the Supra. Stay tuned. So in case you haven't seen the previous videos, here's what happened. I just bought the Supra with the 2JZ in it, and 3 of the cylinders on the 2JZ were dead. They were not holding compression. So what I did is I took off the heads, sent them to a machine shop, and I just got them back yesterday. So now I'm at the stage where everything's coming back together into a whole engine, and then we can put it back in the car. So I've actually started yesterday, and we'll rewind to that. Right now the heads are fully assembled, as you can see. But putting the valves in was quite the mission, so let's go back to that and I'll catch you right after. Alright, so here's the setup. I just got back from the machine shop with the heads and they did a fantastic job. You can see there how impeccable the finish looks. So that's all good to go. What they did is they milled the face down to be completely flat. And I did the valve seats by hand, so I think it came out pretty good considering the rough conditions that this thing was in before. If you remember, the seats were completely oxidized and that was the reason why this thing wouldn't hold any pressure. So I'm glad I did that and actually learned how to do it. I've never done it before. We actually tested the head again afterwards and it was completely fine. It can hold plenty of pressure, so there shouldn't be any issue there. Now, the next thing is I've got all my valves and springs over here organized. So there's the exhaust and then intake on this side. And they're all labeled, so I can't mess anything up. Also, obviously, I'm using new valve stem seals, which came with the gasket kit that I purchased for this engine. And I've got my buckets and shims over here, which are also labeled and obviously measured to stay within the specs of the valve lash. So that should be all good to go. This is labeled. On this side, we've got, I don't know what they're called, but those things that hold the camshafts, they're also labeled from factory. And there's even an arrow on it, so the direction and the placement is labeled. So in theory, I can't mess any of this up. This should be as easy as putting a Lego back together. So let's just do it. Alright, I just got done. Everything went super smooth. It's all in there, the valves, the springs, retainers, and shims. I haven't put the camshafts in there because they need to come out anyways to put the head studs in there. And I didn't put the spark plugs, even though I have them, because I'm missing anti-seize for the threads. So I gotta wait until tomorrow. But yeah, enough for tonight, and I'll catch you in the morning. And we're back in the shop with the valves inside of the heads. So now there's just a couple more things to put on the heads, like the speed sensors for the camshafts, some brackets, like those things, hoses, that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna do that and then it should be ready to put on the block itself. Now I've got a few parts with this that you may not require. But since some of those parts were quite rusty, I decided to replace them with upgraded versions. Starting with this on my left side, this is a full engine gasket kit from Toyota. It should be everything I need to put the engine back together and even more. So I'm probably not going to use all of this, but it's required if you're going to do anything like that. Now, next, I'm replacing the crank pulley. This is an upgraded version. It's actually the Titan Motorsport one. You'll see it later, but it should be quite nice and has some better reading for timing angles on the side. To go along with that, I've chosen the adjustable cam gears from Garage With Bits. They look quite nice. I wanted them blue, but they weren't available anymore, so that's what I had to do. Now, I've also got the cam bolt, since mine is completely rusted, and the tensioner. I don't know how long mine's been in there, so it's always a good idea to replace it. Now, as far as belts, I've got the Gates auxiliary belt and Gates timing belt. This should be OEM quality, so nothing upgraded. It's not the blue racing one. This engine won't be pushing 2000 horsepower, so this should be completely fine. Obviously, you can go a lot crazier with the components, but for my sake, I think that's the bare minimum. Even the cam gears weren't really necessary. Now let me show you my crank pulley. The original one is right here. You can see it's completely rusted, and honestly I don't trust the rubber in here anymore. I know those are prone to failing and you really don't want that to happen, so that's pretty much required for me. Now let's proceed with the head assembly. Quick update on the engine. I have the heads installed, the camshafts and the cam gears. So that's all ready to go and torqued. Now I'm preparing the valve covers, which gave me a little bit of a surprise because one of the gaskets that I had was not the correct one. So if you look at this guy, the front to this first hole is completely different. It's much shorter on this new gasket, so I can't use it. I'm reusing the old one, which is not ideal, but I think it should be alright. It's been replaced at some point in the life of the car, so it should be okay. And the left one is brand new and that worked perfectly. Now I'm just going to throw those on the engine and the top end should be all done and ready to go. So next thing will be the timing on this thing. It's pretty easy. There's just a mark up here, one there, and then another one up here. I've already lined up the engine or the crank. All I have to do now is line up the gears up here and then get my tensioner in right here. It's not there yet, so let's go. Alright, so that did not go as planned at all. The new Titan Motorsport pulley is, it looks great, but it doesn't actually fit on the crankshaft. For some reason, it was just too tight and would not slip on there. I tried with heat, with a hammer, with everything I could. It just wouldn't fit, and I looked online, a lot of people are having the same issue with this pulley, so I don't think we did anything wrong. But the way we fixed it is basically we put it on a lathe and turned down the inside just a little bit. We did a very minimal adjustment just to get the pulley on there nice and tight without any play. The bolt is not even installed yet and it's not coming off, so that's great. Now I'm not going to put it on fully because I just realized that you need 324 Newton meters of torque to torque the bolt down, and I don't actually have a wrench that goes that high, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. In the meantime, I can keep working on the, not the intake, the exhaust. Alright, so I've just finished the exhaust side, everything looks good, it's ready to go. Now I'm gonna flip the engine over and start working on the intake. It shouldn't be too hard, it's only 3-part basically. We've got the runners, the plenum and the throttle body, so it's really not much. And what makes it hard on the intake side is all the wiring, because obviously you've got the loom running from the right side and then to the front. I'm not sure I can remember where everything goes, so I might have to look at a few pictures, but I did take a bunch, so I should be fine there. So I guess let's get back to work. And voila, the engine rebuild is officially complete. I hope I put everything back in its proper location. It definitely looks like it. I'm not missing any bolts or hoses or anything. So it looks good to me. Now, normally I would put it back in the car right now. But as you remember from the last video, I said I wasn't keeping the automatic transmission and I was swapping it soon. Now, I didn't mean this soon, but fortunately, the new gearbox has just arrived, as you can see right there. So I will be swapping this in the next episode and turning this car into a manual 6-speed instead of this automatic transmission. Really pumped about that, and I haven't seen too many people do it, but I definitely know it's possible. So if that's something you like, make sure you subscribe. Now, there's also been a lot of comments about the Subi. It's still here, it's still going on. But I kind of needed a quick break from it. It's been 2 years and a lot of work, a lot of time as well. So I wanted to do something different, and this was perfect. Just got to do an engine rebuild. I'm gonna do a transmission swap and a few other things. So yeah, that's awesome for me. I know it kind of sucks for you guys because you've been waiting for this so long, and it's still coming soon, but I just want to do this thing first. So as you can see, the car hasn't moved a lot. I haven't worked on it, and it's still the 100mm wide body with an STI swap. So just as we left it in the last video, the thing that's here, everybody thought that was the transmission to this car, but it's not. This is the new big boy engine for this car. That's an IAG closed deck block, fully forged. Should be good for 900 horsepower at the crank. So this will go in there once the body is done. So stay tuned for that as well. Now, the rest of the car is just like we saw before, gutted interior. I'm fighting a DCCD issue. If anyone has an idea, I'm seeing some codes on the dashboard, which doesn't tell me much, but the DCCD stays into open mode, so I cannot adjust it. I'm not hearing any sound from the transmission, so that's a good sign. Now, electrically, I've already replaced the DCCD module back there, the G sensor in the middle, the ABS G sensor, and the clock spring. The only thing I haven't done sensor-wise are the angle sensor for the steering wheel, but no codes for that, so I'm guessing that's not it. And there should be a neutral switch on the transmission, which I haven't touched, and maybe something else on the gearbox as well. So that could be another issue. Now, I'm thinking it might be with the wiring as well. Even though I was really careful, I may have swapped 2 wires, but I really doubt that too, so I don't know. I've been trying to solve this for a while now, spent a lot of time, and I'm kind of over it. I do have the official Subaru diagnostic manual, or whatever you want to call that, 6-speed manual transmission diagnostic Bible. So I'm going to try and use that, but that means I have to go through the whole list of things that could be wrong and basically check every wire, every connector, every sensor, basically the whole system, just to figure out the one thing that's wrong, and that's going to take forever. So I've been putting it off for a while now, but that will be the next thing that I do. So otherwise, in the rear, still got the Antonenko wing and no rear bumper yet, but the battery is still in the trunk, and we got no roof as well. So yeah, there's the Subi, a quick update for you guys, and don't worry, it's not done. It will be coming soon. I just want to play with the Supra a little bit. Alright guys, that's it for today. I'm glad we got the engine back in one piece. It's ready to go in the car. Now next step will be the transmission, as I said, so if you like it, stay tuned for that, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.